Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. So I begin this week talking about Monday, November 11th. In the United States, it's Veterans Day, and in Canada, Remembrance Day. So blessings to those who mark these days. And the moon is in the sign of Pisces. And the thing that I would like to really note on this day is that it really flows best if we know by early morning what our priorities are, because in early morning, we may be hit with a lot of tangents, a lot of opportunities, a lot of, hey, let's do this, or what about that? And if you're someone that is very easily moved to another way of thinking, or you light up at different options, we can get a bit off center as to whatever the priority was for this day. If there are no priorities, then no problem. It overall is a lovely day for moving in flow, for taking action, the action with the moon in Pisces sometimes feels very amorphous. It's more like, oh, this is working well this way, so let me just flow in that direction. And that actually is the best way to make this day unfold. And if that's a natural way that you do things, then you are really in a nice space on this particular day. People with a lot of water in their horoscope, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, earth signs, Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo may feel especially in the movement with how this is all happening and how it all flows in a very nice way. It gets especially juicy once we've moved past early morning. So as of about 11:15 to really through the end of the day, up until the time you put your head on the pillow, pretty much, unless you're really a night owl prowler. But what's really nice about this is that it allows you to work energetically with whatever's in front of you, especially if it's got to do with how do we make this happen, how do we really shift into the next gear. And for people who are like their hands are raised and they're up for the transformation and the things that need to happen, this is going to feel like a gravy day. Like, yes, it's all working, we're harmonizing, it's got a wonderful, beautiful energy about it. The moon goes void, of course, at 1:13 a.m. on Tuesday, the 12th, the times I give her Eastern time. And what's happening then is that we've got just a little bit of time, little short few minutes essentially, until 1:26 a.m. when it enters the sign of Aries. And many people, certainly in the Eastern time zone, may already be asleep or winding down, depending on their shifts. But when that switches, two of the most disparate signs next to one another, actually, they all are in the zodiacal wheel. The difference between, in this case, Pisces and Aries is huge. And yet, you can be born a Pisces and have a lot of energy in the sign of Aries, your Mercury, your Venus. It's not unusual at all. And the reverse, you can be in Aries with a lot of Pisces. And it's not easy to reconcile energies that are so different. Pisces, water sign, mutable. It allows in a sort of, I'm feeling this, I'm sensing that. Aries is action, it's fire. It wants to move in the direction it wants to move. So together, those two signs can create a lot of heat, a lot of steam, because it's just such different energy. So when we're shifting and you have Monday that is just for people who are in a harmonious space and they're feeling a lot of support, we move into Tuesday the 12th and then Wednesday, and the heat goes way up. There's a lot of action that happens, and it's much more jagged. It's not in flow. It is creating, in some cases, blockades. The people who are moving best with it are the people who are saying to themselves, well, I'm actually in this energetic space, and this is where I'm going. But even those people are going to be presented with, at some point, it's time to pay the piper, to declare where you're going and how you're getting there, and to meet the hard spaces of what one must encounter if one is just buzzing ahead and not really looking at, well, okay, what dues need to be met? Do I have my papers in order? How do I approach the person with the power in a way that is going to help me make this happen? And this can be presented to us very early in the day on the 12th. And if that's the case, then it really is beneficial to see how can you meet what is required in order to maintain the velocity or the passion or the exuberance or the movement that you want to make happen. It sometimes it's very seductive and we want to do it, but you can't necessarily just plow through the detours. It's important to to really check out, are they there for a reason? Because you don't want to end up plowing through and finding yourself in a hole and then realizing it's going to take even longer for you to get where you want to go. So we're still moving forward this week, waxing moon cycle, sense of direction, but Tuesday, Wednesday will be the days that we feel a lot more correction with however we're heading, and it's valuable to put in those checks. They're there for a reason. We often feel that we're being thwarted for no good reason. And like it or not, there's a process that happens, and if we're encountering something that is stopping us, we have to figure out how we're getting around that, working with it, or timing ourselves for a better advantage. Perhaps this isn't the right time to tackle this particular project. So Wednesday is when we can encounter this particular, how do I break through this puzzle and feel my way to a better success with whatever it is I'm trying to make happen. The moon goes void, of course, at 1:50 a.m. on the 14th, Thursday, and it enters Taurus at 1:59 a.m. once it enters the sign of Taurus, we're in better juice for whatever corrections we need to have made that we encountered over the past couple of days, a more slowing down and assessing, which really is beneficial. Some of us may wake up, especially if we're awake in the early morning, with feeling frustrated or angry or anxious. This can be what I call a dream hangover, or it can be a upset or a correction that needs to happen from whatever transpired over the past couple of days that may have been off-putting or forced us to slow down. And when we move past that, by the time we're more into the full morning, hitting around 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're moving along, then we can be in a much better place. I suggest you have a good breakfast. Make sure you've got some clothes on that have you feel prepared to meet whatever you're going to meet the day. Take a little time with the things that make us feel centered and present. Whatever feels good to you to wear, whatever feels good in your tummy to create a day where you're able to really maximize your morning and the rest of the day, because I think this can be a terrific day once we get past the whatever may have been aggravating us. And some of us will be feeling that aggravant more than others, especially on Tuesday, Wednesday, people with a lot of cardinal sign energy, Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra, just because of how things are moving in the sky and what is causing those points of stress. Once we get into Thursday, then we can sink more into this sense of, all right, I'm feeling very present, I am grounded, and I can move with whatever I have to move with that may feel like I have to work at something I'd rather not work at, but I am feeling more as though I can attract the players who are going to support me, and that I'm more able and feel more in my body present, centered, and able to deal with what I need to deal with. The other thing that is very apparent is that midweek we've got a lot of fire energy. That's with the Aries moon. By the time we hit Thursday, we're getting into earth energy, much more sustainable, much more a sense of this is the direction in which I need to go. One foot in front of the other, pacing ourselves. November 15th is when Saturn goes direct. And when Saturn goes direct, the planet that is all about the Maya that we create, and when I say that, what I mean is you are in a reality of your own making. You may be thinking to yourself, what's Pamela talking about? I'm sitting on this chair, I've got deadlines to meet, I have things I have to do and I'm responsible for, and how is that a reality I'm creating? Well, it's the world in which you perceive, and your spouse or your child or your partner or your best friend or your mother, they're going to perceive that reality slightly differently. We can all be around the table, sitting, sharing food in this space, but how we are perceiving it is different. Each person has a unique perception, and as a result, we're creating different realities all the time. The ideal is to work in sync with however people are perceiving things. An example is you may come from a family with siblings. You have the same parents, and yet your perception of these people and how your life works day to day is different from your siblings. You're different people, you have different emphasis in what you see and how you operate. And when the moon's in the sign of Taurus, I I like to think about it as a time. I mean, for me, when the moon is in the sign of Taurus, just based on my own personal astrology, it's always a great time for me to really be in what I perceive as my present reality. Do I have my office set up in a way that's comfortable to me? Do I have my closet arranged in a way that I can easily see the clothes I want to wear? Is it color divided? How do I set things up so that I am comfortable? Do I have in my home the foods that help me feel grounded and connect me with my body? So Friday the 15th, when we've got this full moon in the sign of Taurus, it's really speaking to us to look at, have we set things up in a way where we can receive the comforts we want to receive and therefore evolve in the way we need to evolve, so that we're not stuck in whatever that childhood place was, or the office grievance, or whatever it is that gets us stuck. The full moon in Taurus, which is what I'm talking about on November 15th, also has Saturn going direct. So that's a lot of reality energy, the physical. So Saturn goes direct at 9:20 a.m. And when Saturn goes direct, the good part about it, of course, Jupiter is still retrograde, but the good part about it is that we are going to start to experience more stepping up in movement. Yeah, the money may still be tight, or people be a bit more cautious in their investments because of the Jupiter retrograde. But with Saturn direct, what we'll be experiencing is it's time to move forward. So things that have been kind of on the back burner, or you've experienced a delay, or there hasn't been a commitment to do it, start to come forward. Yeah, let's get that contract happening. Yes, we're going to move forward with this project. We still have to see more about where all the money's coming from, but we are moving forward. So let's start to get things on paper, make some commitments, get things in action. And so things that have felt delayed, like when is this going to move? When am I going to get that affirmation that yes, this is happening? They start to move. The other thing that's occurring is that a full moon occurs at 4:28 p.m. And that means that the Scorpio sun is lighting up the full moon in Taurus. So what happens with that energetically? Well, if the Scorpio sun, Scorpio energy, is about I am going through a process of deep diving and knowing, and I am going to dig into that and really understand it, and also invest. So, invest my energy, invest my love, invest my time. That lights up the moon in Taurus. And the moon in Taurus is about let me receive and let me provide a solid base for this is how we work together. This is how we look together. This is how we form a shape of that that womb, if you will, of bond. And we're very connected with it. So this is a very strong full moon. It comes off the new moon that I talked about a couple of weeks ago in Scorpio, and how deep that was about creative evolution. And this is about putting that creative evolution into physical form some way. So this full moon is terrific about really defining what it is you're investing in, what it is who are the people or the person that you're willing to do that deep dive with, that deep connection. And it could be one project that is coming to fruition or getting built on. It could be a deep, long-lasting relationship. It could be a, um, an investment that you are stepping up to realize, like home buying or something like that. And there's a fulfillment quality to this. Now, the richest part of this full moon, I also want to mention that Uranus is there, which means that something could come in suddenly, or you could be having this deep conversation and saying, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go with it. And I'm so happy we're willing to make this happen. And the Uranus component can be, let's add this to it. And with fixed sign energy, which is Scorpio and Taurus, there is often a resistance to the thing that kind of popped out from nowhere. But because of the energy of this particular full moon, that revelation or that added ingredient is not really as new as we think. I think it comes from an energetic spark that began actually decades ago. And it may be, and I'm talking more about a global thing than you as an individual. I mean, you might be 18 and thinking, what is she talking about decades ago? But what I'm talking about, even if you are 18, is that we are in this phase of fulfillment for what happened energetically quite some time ago, when there was this shift or this invitation, is a better word, this invitation to enter in to profound transformational societal change. And so this full moon is really carrying that kind of juice that I look at that has to do with Uranus and Pluto. And it's saying, go with it. Don't be afraid of it. Go with it. This can be the peace that takes you to an exponential leap, something that's going to move that so much farther than where you thought it could go. Now, not everybody's going to accept that invitation, but maybe it's a certain component that appeals, or an ingredient that you can introduce, not as intense or as perhaps large as whatever the epiphany or the revelation or the suggestion was that came in. But even the introduction of the thought or the new idea or the new ingredient or person that might come in is worthwhile considering, but you want to chew on it, because Taurus works best when we take our time and we just give it some consideration. And as I said, chew on it. You don't have to take action, but to consider the new thought, the new component, the new idea is something that can be integrated, because that's always the key of a full moon. It's about integration. Scorpio is very intense, and Scorpio energy will go right to the core, the piece that needs to be unearthed, the part of the wound that needs to be exposed. And the Taurus piece may say, too intense, too fast, too much. Let's take it down a notch. Let's enjoy the sunset. Let's think about it. And that's okay, because it's about integration. It's about being heard. It's about getting the idea out there and then allowing time for that seed to take root. The full moon in Taurus is about planting the seed. The moon goes void of course at 2:03 a.m. on Saturday the 16th, and it enters Gemini at 2:09 a.m. And in the sign of Gemini over the weekend, again, very different energy than that moon in Taurus. And you may, it depends on the person, feel very jazzed, really like you've got to spend energy somewhere. Like, how can I release that? There can be a lot of conversation, a lot of looking to glean information, a lot of searching for ideas or new spins on something. I always think Gemini, when the moon's in Gemini, we benefit terrifically from walking. Walk, see what's going on in the neighborhood, play with children if they're in your life. Do something where you're out and about and you're checking things out, because we want to be in movement, and what we see is not necessarily going to kick in as to why this is coming in now. But there's this restlessness that wants to find its way somewhere. Now, there's a picture in the sky between the Sun and Uranus today, and we might see things in the news. There can be things that happen suddenly, and it can be one of the things that causes the I got to move, I got to take action. But you don't want to take action until you know where you want to go. So whatever may come in, pace yourself. Think about how you put yourself in a position of, this feels like a place where I'm doing responsible action and I'm waiting to get more information, because you don't have all the information. And that moves into Sunday the 17th as well. The other thing that occurs is on the 17th and later in the evening on the 16th, we can get some news, some opportunities, something can come in that's good, that's positive, that has an auspicious feel to it. But the theme of this weekend is it is beneficial to wait until you have all the information, because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of mixed messages, and everything you may hear or think is happening is not necessarily what's happening. The best antidote is to take some time for meditation. Walking meditation is great. Get in nature and release, release, release. Clear your head. Release, release, release. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.